So, welcome everybody to my channel, Discovering Nicole. That would be me. My name's Nicole. Today, or first and foremost, how's your week going? I hope you guys are all having an amazing week. If you're not sober right now, that's okay. I'm still going to be here for you. You don't have to get sober right away. We are going to support you through the whole journey, okay? And if you are sober, I'm fucking proud of you. Give yourself a pat on the back, okay? All right. So, what's up, Melanie? What you doing, Garrett? Okay. I love to learn about the disease of addiction. Um, I'm kind of obsessed with it, actually. And so, I always buy books about addiction. Hey, Mia. I always buy books about addiction to read, so that way I can teach myself things about it, so I can help other people. So I recently bought a book. Okay. Hey, man, what's up? And I want to show you guys. Okay. So here we go. The book that I bought is called Understanding and Helping an Addict and Keeping Your Sanity at the Same Time. Okay. Hey, Nathan, what's up, baby? So today I was over on Facebook and I was reading about the two different areas of our brain that addiction affects. And I thought that I could come over here and share with you guys. We're talking about addiction, sweetheart. Okay, if you don't know what we're talking about, you probably don't want to be here then, because this is a channel all about drugs, okay, and addiction and recovery. So on Facebook, I was talking about the two different areas of our brain that addiction affects. And I thought that I could come on here and share with you guys that information if you would like to hear it. So, yeah, so here we go. So the two different parts of the brain that are affected by addiction are the executive control system and the learning system, okay, of our brains, which are in the prefrontal cortex of our brain. The prefrontal cortex of our brain is here in the front behind our eyes, okay? The prefrontal cortex is responsible for like impulse control and learning, cognitive functioning, okay? And I thought it was so interesting what I hear sharing it with you guys. Okay. So like I said, what is the executive control system? Okay. This is the part of the brain that allows us to engage in a higher level of thinking, such as reasoning, planning, and decision making. It protects us from harm by giving us judgment and self-control, and helps us to achieve our short and long-term goals by coordinating our behaviors so that they are goal-directed. The executive control system is the part of the brain that decides what we do, how we do it, and when. Therefore, it may be thought of as the CEO of the brain. Then there's the learning system. This is a system that enables us to adapt to our environment and meet our goals by learning new information and behaviors. This important brain system also helps us to learn from our mistakes and our successes, so that our future actions are improved by lessons learned from past actions. Much of the learning that occurs in our brain involves a reward system that releases feel-good chemicals into the brain that give us a bit of a high when we accomplish something. We learn to repeat behaviors that earn us a reward, and we avoid behaviors that don't result in a reward. As such, much of our learning is reward-based, which is conditioning. The learning system is also involved in memory and motivation. Okay. So that's where substance use affect. That's the part of the brain that is affected by substance use, right? Hey, Jessica, what's up? Okay. I don't know if those are like little kids, but I just hid them. I'm sorry if you're not a little kid and I just hid you. You're gonna have to message me somewhere on my other social medias and I'll unhide you. But like, we are like legit talking about the disease of addiction. And if you're a little kid and you just found my page because you were scrolling on shorts, like this is like for real, like not a game, you know. If you've ever experienced having an addicted loved one, okay, a parent, brother or sister, then you would understand how serious addiction is. But it's not like a come in here and like fool around kind of thing. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but like we're like really I enjoy doing this. If you don't enjoy learning about the disease of addiction and how it affects your brain, then like I said, this video might not be for you. But in order to fight the disease of addiction, if you're a drug addict and you're watching this, you got to know what you're up against. You need to be learning about your disease so that way you can overcome it, you can fight it. If you don't educate yourself about what you're going up against, you're going into a fight blindsided, okay? And so that's not a good idea, right? Learn everything that you can so that way you will be able to, you know, overcome it and help other people too. That's the goal. The whole goal of you getting sober is to eventually be able to help others, you know? And the more you learn, the more you can do that and you can help others, okay? Okay. So it says, once the brain has undergone the physical change that create addiction, the effects of addictive substances on their brain occur independent of intoxication so that they disrupt behavior even when the individual is sober. So even when we're sober and we're not using drugs, our addiction still affects us in a negative way. Okay, because we have crossed over, right? So there's like imaginary line. Hey guys, what's up? Where you go from just like dabbling and using recreationally to becoming addicted, okay? This means that although people in recovery can return to normal function and behavior, the addicted brain can be reactivated by re-exposure to addictive substances, years, even decades after the last drink or drug. When an addict is in recovery, even a single exposure to drugs or alcohol can reactivate these enduring brain changes, resulting in a rapid resumption of the same behaviors and dysfunction that occurred in the original bout with addiction. In my work with addicts, I've seen innumerable cases of people with many years of sobriety relapsing right back to where they were with even one drink or drug. This is why relapse prevention is such a critical part of addiction treatment and recovery. Okay, so how many of you guys have done proper relapse prevention? How many of you guys have a relapse prevention plan? Right? How many of you guys have a relapse prevention plan? What do I mean by that? What do I mean by a relapse prevention plan? I mean, like, what do you do to keep yourself from relapsing? What is your program that you do, right? So I took it upon myself about a year ago to create a whole relapse prevention plan, a universal relapse prevention plan for anybody who wanted to use it. Okay. And I typed it up and I emailed it to anybody that asked for it. Right. Because I was literally on fire one day when I was making a video. We were live and I was talking about relapse prevention, how to not relapse, how to stay sober, how to fight triggers, how to fight cravings, that kind of thing. And I was gung-ho, baby. So I was writing everything down that I was saying, and then I was like, man, this is a good plan. I need to fucking teach this shit to everybody. So that's what I started doing. So to me, like a good relapse prevention plan, to me, is just having a plan in general, because a lot of people don't think about that. They think, oh, I'm not going to relapse. Like, I don't want to get high ever again, so I'm going to stay sober and I'll be just fine, right? And so they don't prepare for anything, right? So I learned this from my father-in-law, but it goes like this. Proper pre-planning prevents piss poor performance. And so if you plan your relapse prevention and you utilize it and put it into action, then you're going to be better prepared for an instance where you might run into somebody that has drugs and offers them to you. you might have surgery on your back and get prescribed pain pills. And when you're taking your pain pills as prescribed, become triggered, and want to take more than prescribed, and you'll have a plan of action, right? Hold on, let me take my medicine, y'all. Um, Okay, sorry about that. So, one of the first things that I believe is really important, you guys, is when you first get sober, is to go out and buy yourself a calendar and a planner, okay? Go out and buy a planner and get prepared to plan your days, okay? Plan your days as boring as your life is, right? Because mine's pretty fucking boring. Plan your days from the moment you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed. Now that I'm older and I've also been sober for a while, I don't plan my days, but that's because I don't have like, okay, so when I first got sober, I would have like impulse, like just out of nowhere, I'd be like calling one of my old friends and want to go do something. Like I had a really hard time controlling my impulses. I have no problems with that in regards to making like flash decisions and just like going out and do stuff, right? So I have a schedule a routine. I wake up in the morning, I take my son to school, I come home, I clean the kitchen, I throw some laundry in the washer, right? I get online, I upload videos for all the accounts that I manage. Then I upload content for my own account. Then I post across all social media. Then I turn on my true crime shows and I start doing, journaling or work that I have to do at home. And so I have a plan. Then at 2:00, I go get Nate from school. Then I come home and we eat dinner and we hang out. So, but like, let's say for some reason me and my husband got divorced, right? And he had Nate one week and I had Nate the next week. I would make a plan and I would start planning my days by the hour. Why? Because a stressor. I became vulnerable, okay? Going through a divorce and getting divorced from my husband would make me unfit. What I mean by that is not in a good place. Vulnerable to relapse, right? And so I would totally start replanning my days. I would probably start going to meetings once a week outside of my home to get some fellowship with other people. Like I would really throw myself into the practices that I practiced in early recovery, because I know how bad it is for me whenever I go through a breakup. When I will cry for a whole year. That's not happening, but I'm just using it as an example of like why I would start planning my day again. Now, I am going to start working out because we have a gym here. So I'm going to start making like a skeleton outline of my days to fit in my workouts. So that way I can be on point, But that's a very important thing to start doing when you're in early recovery. When you first get started, is to start out on the right foot and start planning your day. That way, it's like a working part of your mind. You practice it every day. Okay. So, let me think. And your brain can heal. Okay, so a lot of people, they think that because they're drug addicts that they're never going to get better. Your brain can heal. Okay, so will you be cured of addiction? No, but your brain will heal and you can relearn positive ways to live and change your life, right? But just like this book said, let's say something happens and something was reintroduced to your life, you would pick up right where you left off. Okay, so the disease of addiction is a progressive illness. Okay, it gets worse, it never gets better. All right, so let's say you have been sober for 2 years and you are out and about with your girlfriends and you run into an old friend who's using. you're in a vulnerable place, they give you some drugs and you take it, right? You will literally pick up where you left off. You will wake up the next morning and be on a highway to hell, okay? And I know because I've relapsed so many times in the past. Um, and every time I've relapsed, I picked up right where I left off and really did some fucking damage too, man. I'm telling y'all what. Uh, I really, really did. So, do y'all have any questions about anything? If you do, please ask, because I would love to hear y'all's questions. Or anything if you want to say something, because it helps me whenever y'all are chatting to me, because it helps my mind to like think of stuff, you know? Hey, Nicole, what's up, girl? We're learning about our brains and how our brains are affected by drugs. That's why it's so important, you guys, when we get sober, for us to make connections with other people, friends, sponsors, other sober people, right? Because we need to have those connections to start filling in the gap, right? Where we were just out there being loners and using drugs and not doing what we needed to do. We need something to help fill that time in a healthy way. And so finding fellowship of people that understand what you've gone through is really, really important, dude. It's really important. Um, Well, girl, we actually got a book where we're learning. Okay, so y'all know the story about Pavlov's dog, where he rang the bell every day before he fed them their food, and every time he would ring the bell, the dogs would start drooling and salivating, because after a few times of ringing the bell and then feeding the dogs, they associated food with the cue of ringing the bell. Okay? It's the same way with us, addicts. Okay? Have you ever been somebody who you're going to cop some dope, meth, you're going to get some meth and or heroin or whatever, and you get it in your hands and you've got a shit? Like you literally need to go straight to the bathroom and take a diarrhea shit. And you haven't even put the dope in your veins yet, the dope in your body yet. Okay? That is a cue, and your brain is associating that drug with the reward, the euphoria that it knows it's going to get from continued use of that substance, right? How about when you're driving down the road and you've been sober for 7 years, but you used to stay down on 12th Street and get your drugs from Bobby Joe on 12th Street. Every time you drive by 12th Street, your heart starts beating fast and you get that like feeling in your stomach, right? Because Bobby Joe on 12th Street, that house, that street and everything is the cue that says, we're going to get our drug, we're going to get the reward, we're going to get the feel-good chemicals. And so that's what happens to our brain as we're using substances, day in and day out. We're taking a substance in, our brain gets the euphoria, and our brain starts to associate feeling good, having happiness, pleasure. Everything starts to be associated with the substance, right? So things like having sex are not as pleasurable as they were before, because now we have dope. And so we would rather just do dope than have sex. We would rather just do dope than eat food. We would rather just do dope than sleep. We would rather just do dope than eat, right? And that's because our brain is literally being rewired by this cue and reward, okay? I think that's Oh, yeah. So it says, as people in addiction learn cues that become associated with their substance use, these cues in turn trigger drug cravings and extraordinary efforts to satisfy the cravings. In other words, these cues become triggers for them to crave and seek substances. For example, an alcoholic may learn to associate the street that her favorite bar is on with drinking. So every time she sees the street, it initiates cravings for alcohol use. Similarly, a drug addict may associate the area where his drug dealer operated with substance use and may experience powerful cravings whenever he passes near that location. One of the unfortunate consequences of addiction learning is that these substance related cues become permanent memories embedded in the subconscious mind. This is why, even decades into recovery, people can be triggered into relapse by exposure to substance related cues, especially if they're vulnerable at the time, such as if they're under a great deal of stress or experiencing mental health symptoms. A vulnerability, okay? And so that's what they kind of talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. They talk about being spiritually fit. Basically, what they're talking about is these vulnerabilities that you can run into, right? Depression, anxiety, you and your old man broke up, you got fired from your job. If you don't know how to properly cope with these vulnerabilities, if you haven't learned that over the years of yourself staying sober, then you are subject to relapse because you're going to revert back to your old ways of coping, which is, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me. Fuck it. Let's get high. That's why you got to really, really, really get into your recovery and focus on retraining your brain and practicing the things that you're learning. You can't expect to stay sober if you're not practicing and you're not doing these things, right? If you're just expecting to stay sober by sure willpower, that I'm teaching you right now in this video that your brain has been changed by your substance use. Okay? So pure willpower alone ain't gonna cut it, honey. I'm addicted to benzos and methamphetamine, taking it one day at a time, been off meth for a week and slowly tapering off Xanax. Good job, Cody. Good job. Please be careful tapering, okay? Hey, Kaleidoscope, what's up, baby? Please be careful. I hope you're under doctor's supervision while you're tapering because it's really fucking dangerous, okay? What does this mean? YouTube's rolling out new terms of service or some shit like that. Start earning from shorts, feeds, ads. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Turn that bitch on, baby. Shorts monetization. Okay, keep that too. I accept. Accept. Okay. Like I said, start practicing, okay? Yeah. If you are in California and you need a doctor to help you taper off of benzos, just call me and I'll get you an appointment with Dr. B, okay? For real. No problem. No problem at all. Super duper easy thing to do. Just let me know, honey. Let me know. My daughter was detained for 3 months. I'm concerned of her overdosing. She's vulnerable right now. So did she just get out of jail, Annalise? If she just got out of jail, make sure that you got some Narcan. Okay, like 2 to 4 things of Narcan. And is she ready to, get into it and start staying sober and making changes? Okay. Hey. So if you're, I'm glad you're here, Annalise. So if you're a parent and you're hearing what we're talking about, like, a lot of people say and they think that addiction is a choice, right? That we're just choosing to hurt and harm ourselves every day because it's just the greatest way to live, right? But if you sit here and you listen to the science behind how addictive substances affect our brain and you learn how the brain operates, okay, you literally learn about how these substances change us, right? Okay. Um, the development of brain pathways that establish cues and triggers is just one example of the addiction related learning that occurs with repeated substance use. Many other pathways that are responsible for obsessive and uncontrollable substance use also develop. These learned pathways are primarily involved in creating automatic behaviors where addicts react in specific ways to stimuli, such as exposure to cues or to interactions with other people, without even thinking. In other words, addiction becomes automatic. Automatic. It's like we're on cruise control. Okay? This is one of the reasons that addiction is difficult to break. Overriding these automatic behaviors and reasserting thinking control over behavior is one of the main focuses of addiction treatment. This is only possible when the addicts are substance free so that their brain's executive control system can begin functioning properly. Okay. Well, that's a good that's a step in the right direction, honey. Is that's a step in the right direction. If she told you that, that's huge. Have you taken her to the doctor to see if she can get on some kind of medication assisted treatment? Because if she's not ready to stop getting high, she could get on methadone, and they could help her, and maybe like being on that will make her or encourage her to want to at least stop using illegal substances, and it'd be a lot safer, or Suboxone. Um, and like her telling you, like, I'm not ready to stop. We were just talking about that. After a repeated use of substances, we will choose drugs over eating, sex, sleep, housing, relationships, our children, and people think that we are doing that because we have a moral failing, because we're just such horrible people. But if people would actually take time to understand addiction and read and study, they would learn that these drugs, okay, when you put these powerful substances into your body and your body gets the reward of feeling that euphoria over and over and over again, your brain becomes addicted to it. Your brain wants that reward. It remembers it. It will remember it till the day you die. Okay? That's powerful. Okay? That's a really big that's crazy, like it's scary too, actually, is what it is. Hold on, y'all. We went today, but did not give her. Good. Hey, that's awesome, Annalise. Good job. That's really all you can do is be there for her, encourage her, and don't nag her. That's another thing that we've been learning about. Um, okay, so, but I'll tell you this. Our brains are also very amazing and powerful, and we can heal our brains. And so when we get sober and we start doing things like reading books about addiction and helping each other and learning, as we are doing that, our brain is developing new neural pathways, right? And they're all coming together in a little path, like a little trail, and they are firing off healthy, right? Because we're healing our brain. So every day that I practice my sobriety, I come on and I make my videos about addiction and recovery. I pick my son up from school and I do the right thing. My brain is new little neural pathways are being formed every day that I do the opposite of what I was doing in addiction. Okay? Okay. So it also talks about how when we're in active addiction, we do something called social learning, which is we are influenced by the people that are around us. And a lot of us start using substances, and our substance use elevates when we're around other people who are using drugs. For example, I used to snort and smoke methamphetamine for years. Then I started hanging around with and being aware of people shooting up that were I was hanging out with. And I started to shoot up too, emulate what they were doing. Okay. Um, she has been homeless on and off. I would want her at home, but I had to tell her that I'm afraid something will happen to her while I'm at work. I had to set boundaries, because having her in your home like that could be detrimental to your situation. And like I said, if you're listening and you hear me saying about how these substances affect our brain and how the brain is hijacked basically, and we will choose, drugs over sleeping, drinking, eating, then it would be nothing for your daughter to steal money from you, have a bunch of dudes over and ransack your house and run with all your furniture. And it's not because she doesn't love you. It's not because she's a thief. It's not because she hates you. It's because when you are addicted to drugs, you have tunnel vision. Okay, you can only. This is what it's like when you're addicted to drugs. You can only see through this tunnel. Nothing around here matters, right? All this is blurred out. And that one vision at the other end is your fucking dope, okay? And what you're going to do to get to that dope. How are you going? That's how we have some great problem solving skills when we're in active addiction. Because, baby, we can make a fucking $100 out of 50 cents. So that way we can go get high. True story. Okay, so these are some important things that you need to do whenever you are getting sober that will help you to stay sober, okay? So cease contact with people and places that previously served as, triggers and peer-driven influences. Develop a new network of friends and family who support your recovery. Get into a recovery support group during treatment and after that involves immersion in a culture of recovery where recovery-based attitudes, behaviors, and values are modeled and rewarded. The use of vicarious experiences providing modeling and motivation for recovery to increase self-efficacy beliefs. We'll discuss this in the next chapter. And to show the way to recovery. Establishing and using a supportive network for a healthy approach to dealing with stress and adversity, and learning skills and the self-confidence to respond appropriately to negative peer pressure. That is really important, okay? Because how many of you guys know how to respond properly to negative peer pressure? So if I came up to you today and I was like, "Hey, what's up, you guys?" And I had some cocaine, and I was like, "Hey guys, what's up?" I got some fucking coke, and I'm gonna share it with you guys. And I just doled out lines for everybody and put them on a mirror. Would you be able to say no and walk away, or would you be like, "Party time, excellent, woo 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 woo"? And that might seem like a drastic example, but like, I'm telling you guys, when you are faced with substances right there in front of you, what are you doing?
Don't let her out.
Oh, then you don't know what you're going to do. That's why you shouldn't be around those folks anyway. And you better have a plan of action to do something different if somebody does do that. What if somebody offered me drugs? What would I do? Honey, I would start preaching the gospel to them. I would tell them all about how last time I did cocaine, I shot up too much and I damn near fucking blew my heart out. And I collapsed and my lips turned blue and I was fucking seasoned and shit. And then they'd probably take their cocaine and run. Do you know what I'm saying? So, bye, Jackson. Have a great day. Yeah, free drugs. I mean, especially, if we could get free drugs, that's like, wow, don't leave that, right? That's how we were in active addiction. We would never pass up free drugs, But now that we're in recovery, we know the consequences. So what would be the consequence of doing one line of cocaine with your friends? Okay, sure, I might could do a line of cocaine with my friend, and that day I might come home, go to bed, go to work the next day, and think nothing about it. Then I might do another line of cocaine with somebody, and the same thing might happen. I might be unscathed, I might be fine. But there will come that time where you are emotionally vulnerable, mentally vulnerable, and you use that cocaine, and it sets you off. Okay, it sets you off. There's lots of times that I have been able to use substances and not have negative consequences, but but the negative consequences that I have experienced from substance use were great enough that, oh, come here, buddy, were great enough that I know I just can't return to that. Like, it's not something I can just be like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to use cocaine one day, or I'm just going to do some meth a couple times. Hey, buddy, are you going to say hi to everybody? Say hi to everybody. Taco, the little taco. Paco, the little man. Paco, the little taco. You're such a pretty boy. You're such a pretty boy. You're such a pretty boy. Isn't he the most piteous boy you've ever seen? Say, hello. Hello. Hello there. My name's Paco, and I'm addicted to women. Fine women. Bitches and hoes. Hoes and bitches. Get away down, you little pimp. That's my baby, Paco. See, he always sits here with me. He assists me in the show. Okay. So, anyway, nobody's going to give us no free cocaine, so don't get any ideas, y'all. Let me see. What is this talking about? Medication-assisted treatment? Yep, it sure is. She was getting methadone treatment while detained. Yeah, y'all are lucky over there in Canada, because in the States we don't have a lot of jails that will give you your MAP medication. Hey, what's your question, hun? Being around familiar. Okay. There's a difference between a lapse and a relapse, okay? We're going to read about that today. How to deal with addicted parents. That's a great question. I got you, okay? So, first of all, if you're under the age of 18 and you have to live with your mom and dad, tell me your situation. Are you under the age of 18? Or are you old enough to where you can separate yourself from your parents' situation and get with somebody in your family that you could live with, that you could be safe? Okay, so you're over 18 or you're not? So basically, if you're over the age of 18, I would say to go live with another family member if you're not already doing that, and kind of disconnect from that just to keep yourself safe. Now, how can you help your parents? Okay. If you've been sitting here listening, all right. Okay, you're not, all right. So if you're under the age of 18, I want you to reach out to your grandma or your aunts and uncles, and I want you to get out of that situation. I don't want you to be living in your house with your parents using, okay? If you can't get out of that situation, if you have a really good friend who will allow you, whose family will allow you to stay with them, that would be awesome. Or maybe even if they just let you stay with them like in the afternoons until it's time to go to bed, and then they drop you off at your house so you could take a shower and then go to school. Do you know what I'm saying? Kind of just to not have to be around that. But if you were in here and you were listening to me talking about how substances affect the brain, your parents' brains are hijacked by substances. And so as long as they're continuing to put drugs into their body, they cannot make good, clear decisions, all right? And so in order to help them get sober, we need them to be sober, like not taking drugs for like a day or two, so you can talk to them about how much you care about them and how you don't want to lose them, and about how they can get help, because you don't want to talk to them about that when they're high, right? Because when they're high, they're not going to hear anything you got to say. So if you can sit down and talk with them while they're sober for a day or two, or that would be beneficial. But the only thing that you can do as a child for your mom and dad is pray for them, is love them, and encourage them to get sober. Let them know how their substance use, is affecting you as a child. Now, there's a thin line between letting them know how their substance abuse is affecting you as a child and telling them about it to the point where they see it as you nagging them. And if it gets to that point where they feel like you're just nagging them all the time, then they'll stop. They'll cut you off. They will totally disconnect to whatever you're saying. And every time you talk to them, they will go into hibernation mode and they won't hear one single word you're saying. Okay, so you want to keep the lines of communication open between you and your parents that are addicted to drugs, or your loved one that's addicted to drugs. Okay, and I know you want to sit down and you want to tell them all the ways that they hurt you, and you want to tell them you want to just unload on their motherfucking asses, right? Because when you have a family member, especially your mom and dad, and they're using drugs and their responsibility is to take care of you as a child, that you form a great resentment towards them, right? An anger, like, how could they use substances and get high over taking care of me, their own child, right? They must not care about me. They must not love me. No, that's the farthest thing from the truth. Your parents love you, okay? Your parents love you, but your parents are handicapped, okay? Drugs and alcohol handicap us when we're under the influence of them, and they affect our brain. So even when your mom and dad are not on drugs, their brain is yearning for that substance, for the reward, okay? Because the brain has become so accustomed to having that euphoria. Just like I was telling everybody earlier about Pavlov's dogs. Okay, Pavlov would ring the bell, the dogs would start drooling, and he would feed them. So every time he rang that bell, they would start drooling because they associated the bell with food. Okay, so that's what happens to our brains, is that we associate our drug of choice with the street that we buy drugs from, the dealer that we get them from. A trigger, like a commercial of a beer can be a cue that triggers our brain, and that, oh gosh, I need to get it. We're constantly in that craving trigger craving mode, okay? And so being there to love your family and let them know that you love them and that you're not going to give up on them is really important. You can call around and find out where the best option for treatment for your mom and dad would be, okay? Like outpatient treatment, inpatient treatment, detox, like which one would they need. You could get with somebody like me who helps people get into treatment and do some research, and you could find a place where they could go, and you could have that ready and let your mom and dad know, Mom, Dad, I know this place that is available to take you if you want to get treatment. I have the phone number, and they have available beds ready, and I just want you to know that when you're ready, you just let me know and we'll go. Okay, like have it on speed dial, baby, so that way they know that there's help available to them. Okay, also, while you're doing all this, start studying, start reading about addiction. Okay, start learning about how drugs and addiction affects the brain. Start learning about why people use drugs, what causes them to use drugs, right? And it'll give you a better understanding of what your parents are going through, okay? And like I said, we are not like perpetual victims, right? Us drug addicts. Okay, we took drugs and alcohol into our body, and then we became addicted, right? We take responsibility for that. But I just want people to be more compassionate and understanding, because using drugs isn't like, oh, you know what, I'm going to use drugs because I don't give a fuck about my kids. Like, that thought never crossed my mind. I'm a mother. I used drugs while I was pregnant with my son. And I thought about how I was hurting my son every single day. I hated myself. I wanted to kill myself. Okay? Then I gave birth to my son, and I stayed sober for 90 days, and then I relapsed. And I was so depressed and so vulnerable that I had no defense against using drugs. You know, now that I've been sober for almost 8 years, now I have plenty of experience and defense against using drugs, you know. But back then, I was a hot mess express. So I hope that answered some of your question about what to do. The best thing you can do is be there and let them know you're available to help them. If you're under the age of 18, get yourself out of that fucking house and move in with your granny and grandpa, okay? Because no teenager, little kids need to be seeing their mom and dad all fucked up like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that breaks my heart, honestly. And that's why I got sober, because I said, I will never, ever, ever, ever have my son seeing me fucked up. And I don't ever want my little boy to be 15, 16 years old, coming on a live stream on YouTube and asking somebody like me how to help their mom. I pray every single day that my son doesn't choose to pick up drugs ever. I want to share a video with you guys, okay? It's very emotional, so sorry. Oh. Let me know if you can see. Hold on, guys. There you go. You gave me a shoulder when I needed it. You showed me love when I wasn't feeling it. You helped me fight when I was giving in. And you made me laugh when I was losing it. 'Cause you are the reason why I'm still hanging on. 'Cause you are the reason why my head is still above water. And if I could, I'd get you the moon and give it to you. And if that was coming for you, I'd give my life for you. 'Cause you are the reason why I'm still hanging on. 'Cause you are the reason why my head is still above water. And if I could, I'd get you the moon and give it to you. And if that was coming for you, I'd give my life for you. 'Cause you are. Here come the ambulance. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. Babe, you know the charger is? It was plugged into the wall over there. Look in that drawer of that little dresser right there, the brown one behind you. Narcan saved my son. All 4 doses. They had to give him 4 doses of Narcan. 4 doses of Narcan, CPR. I mean, like, anyways, I showed that to you guys because I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw that video because somebody had tagged me in it. And when I tell you, oh my gosh, I just cried again watching it. And that he made it. He's alive. And that was 10 years ago when he was 16 years old. Okay, that happened. But anyway, like, nowadays, using drugs is not like it used to be whenever I was using drugs, okay? When I was using drugs, you could use drugs and you weren't going to overdose from doing drugs one time, right? You could get high and experiment. You don't have that luxury today, okay? Fentanyl, powder fentanyl, is being put in all drugs basically on the streets, pills, cocaine, methamphetamine. And so every time that you buy drugs from your dealer, you are risking your life. You're risking the chance that you could get a fatal dose of fentanyl. Okay, and you could have the highest tolerance in the world, but not knowing how much of what is in that substance could drop your ass like a dime. Bam! Dead as a doornail. You hear me? So anyways, I wanted to show you guys that. So, because I think it's really powerful to see that and see that young man carrying his friend up the stairs to his parents' house in an overdose. The mother coming out, calling 911, and then both of them performing rescue breaths and CPR on him. Okay? In my experience, when I've overdosed, I've been left on the side of the road. I've been left in front of the emergency room door. I have been done dirty, okay? And so this is what if you ever have somebody who overdoses and you don't have Narcan, you automatically start giving them rescue breaths and call 911, motherfuckers, okay? How do you go about getting free fentanyl test strips to test your own drugs? Hey, Trisha, what's up? It wasn't it? Hey, Sterling. Oh, what state are you in? Hold on. What state are you in? I know that they should have them giving them out at your harm reduction coalitions or institutes, but what state do you live in? And I'll look it up for you. Like here in Arkansas, there's a harm reduction place here in Little Rock, and it's over off Roosevelt, and you could go there and pick up fentanyl test strips. Oh, PA, that should be easy. They have harm reduction there. I think I know. Let me see. I think Savage Sisters are in PA. Hold on a second. Let me see, because they are some badass girls, and they'll get you some test strips. Let me see if it's PA that they're in.
First, I want to thank you for bringing this. An influx of cash.
Is PA Philadelphia or is that Pennsylvania? It is? Okay, well, never mind. Okay, let me get your Pennsylvania harm reduction. Pennsylvania harm reduction. Oh, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia? Philadelphia, right? Pittsburgh, PA harm reduction. Oh, I need to learn about the fentanyl test strips. Yeah, fentanyl test strips. Let's see what they got for harm reduction. Oh, wow. They have a Prevention Point, Pittsburgh. Cool. Okay, here's a great place, it looks like. And they got a Facebook group, too. Okay, so it's called Prevention Point, Pittsburgh. It's a nonprofit. And their phone number is, are you ready? They said our Homewood site is open, operating normally. Okay, so anyways, the phone number is 412-247-3404. They have needles, works, naloxone and overdose prevention, case management, HIV and Hep C testing, wound care. So they'll have naloxone and test strips, fentanyl test strips. So fentanyl test strips, you can also order them off Amazon, you guys. Did you get that number, Trisha? Yeah, anytime, girl, no problem. And you guys know, like, if you're somebody who's still using substances, like, you don't have to worry about me judging you or anything like that. If you need help with something or you have a question about, safe injecting in a safely because you've shot out one arm and you need help, you can call me and I'll help you out. We can get on a Zoom call and I'll help you, and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Okay. Because, honey, I wish there was somebody to help me back whenever I was still using, because I really did some damage, and there was not harm reduction available here in Arkansas where I live. Okay. Like, it just came here like in the last 5 years. And so I remember going to buy syringes from like Kroger or Walgreens and having $20, $30 to pay for a box of syringes, and they would not sell me syringes. That's a bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a paying customer, and so they would rather, you sit there and spread diseases and hurt yourself than provide you with something that you're trying to pay for. Arkansas is really, really far behind in a lot of stuff. But anyways, I'm glad we have a harm reduction place now. But they have a bunch of harm reduction places in Pittsburgh. They had multiple ones. So if you go to that one and they don't have what you need, I would just call another one, But yeah, you can get fentanyl test strips. Let's go to Amazon because I have an Amazon account. So we're going to see what they cost. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. So they got a 10 count pack for $18.86. These are let me see, fentanyl test strip kit for liquid and powder substances, and it's got like the whole thing where you drop it in the vial and all that stuff, and that's $26. 25 fentanyl test strips for rapid detection, $22. So they have a bunch of different options that are different prices. Okay. So there you go, baby. Bada bing, bada boom. Bada bing, bada boom. That's awesome. Okay. So that's good though. So yeah, you can order them on Amazon, get you a whole box of strips and just start going to town, honey. Start testing your motherfucking drops. Make sure that you ain't gonna kill yourself. Yeah, so you can test the pills. What you would do is you would scrape off some of that pill. Well, you know what? See, the way they make those pills and they press them, like, you could scrape off some and it could say, oh no, there's none in it. But then farther into the pill, the way they do it, is not like scientific or whatever. It could be in there. But I mean, I imagine what you could do is like crush that pill down completely and then take like 3 little doses from the sides and then the middle and put it all in there and see if it has fentanyl in it, or just do the whole pill if you got multiples, But the way it is like you could get fentanyl could be in your Xanax, you know what I'm saying, that you're buying off the street. When I was just reading an article today about xylazine, animal tranquilizers, being in the fentanyl that they have up there where y'all live in Pennsylvania and shit, Pittsburgh and shit. And that when people are using this trank dope and they shoot it up, their injection site is hardening, right? And getting like this crust over it. And their skin is it's eating away. It's eating the skin, and it's from the mixture of that xylazine with the trank with the fentanyl. It's really, really crazy. Yeah, it's really scary. I understand, Trisha. That's okay, honey. You do. We don't have a nothing. No judgment here. Um, some people can do that, honey. I couldn't though. Oh crap! I need to post for Pez, y'all. Hold on. So, crocodile advice on how best part of getting crocodile versus fentanyl. Everybody recovers. Da, 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 da. Not much of a. I've already posted all these. Maybe not this one.
Let's talk about using dreams.
Using
Let's say
dreams,
that
okay.
you were a drug user for a long period of time, and then you decided you wanted to get sober, and then you get sober.
So, anyway, what was I going to read to? I was going to tell you guys about the difference between a relapse and a lapse. So, a lapse is the return to substance use, and it's brief and not at the previous levels. This is usually in the context of the addict drinking or using again and instantly regretting the decision and returning to recovery. And a relapse is a reactivation of the addiction, a return to previous levels of use and behaviors. Okay? Hey, thanks, Trisha. I appreciate that. You are too, baby. So this looks like a whole chapter about relapse prevention. It's my favorite. Okay, so you guys have already learned this with me. A lot of you guys have, but some of you guys haven't, so I'm going to teach you now. Okay? So there are different stages to relapse. Did you know that? There is. Okay? The first stage is your emotional relapse. At this stage, the person who's using, addicts aren't thinking about going back to substance use and they don't want to relapse. However, their emotions and behaviors are funneling them towards relapse. During treatment, addicts are taught to self-monitor for the red flags for emotional relapse. These are represented by the acronym HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, so that they can recognize trouble brewing and engage their recovery tools. The emotional relapse stage can be recognized when recovering addicts begin engaging in denial, bottling up their emotions, not attending recovery meetings and not sharing at meetings, self-isolating, neglecting self-care, feeling restless, irritable, and discontent, and experiencing thoughts of substance use to escape tension and bottled up negative feelings. Stage 2 is the mental relapse. In this stage, motivation for recovery and efforts at recovery activities erode, and the addict becomes increasingly attracted to the idea of returning to substance use. So, these are characterized by bargaining, thinking up scenarios where substance use would be okay, rationalizing going to high-risk environments such as parties with old drinking and using buddies, rationalizing relapse by committing to only occasional substance use or by switching to a different addictive substance. Cravings and pervasive thoughts about substance use. Glamorizing or engaging in fond memories of substance use. Rationalizing, connecting with people, places, and things associated with past substance use. Downplaying the consequences of using. Lying. Convincing oneself of the viability of ways to control substance use. Seeking out opportunities where relapse would be possible, and full out planning a relapse. Occasional thoughts of drinking or using in recovery are common. I think about it sometimes, and aren't in themselves an indication of a mental relapse. You'll notice that the word rationalizing appears several times in this description of a mental relapse, as well as the word bargaining. So that's what we'll start to do. We'll start to make excuses and say things like, well, it's not that big of a deal if I just have one drink, or I deserve it. I've been working hard, you know? You're very much. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, Sterling, for real. What is the book that you're working with, Nicole? Can you put it in the chat so we can order it, please? Oh, yeah. It's called Understanding and Helping an Addict and keeping your sanity. I got it from Amazon. This time I'll be different. This time I'll be careful. This time I'll control it. Rationalizing substance use and downplaying the consequences indicates that an individual is well on the road to relapse. Stage 3, the physical relapse. This is where addicts begin using substances in lapses or relapses. They usually engage in physical relapse after they've had time to convince themselves that it's okay to drink or use again during a mental relapse, and they've had some time to get used to the idea. They often plan ahead for the exact moment they'll relapse, usually during a window of opportunity during which they believe they won't get caught. I've seen lots of people carry on the charade that they're still in recovery long after they've physically relapsed. Often they'll even continue going to recovery support group meetings, but they'll seldom fool anybody for long. Yeah, I did that, you guys. So, the earlier on in the relapse cascade that individuals recognize and take action to interrupt the process, the higher the likelihood of averting disaster. So you can be on your way to a relapse, and you can reach out for help, call a friend, go to a meeting, tell on your disease. The number one thing that I tell people when they're struggling and they're thinking about using is to start snitching on their addiction, okay? Tell on your disease. So if you even have the thought, and this is what I did, this is what I've been doing for 8 years. For 8 years, when I have a trigger or I'm having a hard time or I'm emotionally vulnerable, guess what I do? Yes. Y'all want to know what I do? Anytime I have any kind of situation where I want to get high, I make a video about it. I go live and I tell the whole community of people that I have developed here online about my thought process and what I've been wanting to do. Okay? I tell everybody in my pathway. Okay? And that helps me stay accountable. Because after I tell y'all, I'm definitely not going to go out and get high, you know, because I don't want to have to come back and tell y'all that I relapsed, you know. So that helps me a lot. Now, I do understand that some people, you know, aren't going to want to fucking tell the whole world they're wanting to relapse, but it's a really good tool. My YouTube channel is like my virtual diary, you know, and I talk about what I'm feeling all the time. It helps me a lot, especially when I first got sober. When I first got sober, I didn't really know how to stay sober, so coming on and talking to you guys helped me, you know. So what did I want to tell you? Oh yeah, okay. So these are some red flags. These should flag addicts to engage their relapse prevention tools. Okay, here's your relapse prevention tools. Are y'all ready? Okay, feeling hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Okay, which are the HALT acronym. Okay, so if you're feeling hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, hey Neil, will you bring me some ice water? And what you need to do is you need to pause, and you need to say, okay, if I'm hungry, I need to feed my body. If I'm angry, what am I angry about? Like, what's going on? I need to talk about it. Okay, if I'm lonely, reach out for help. Call somebody, have somebody over, go to a meeting. If you're tired, get some rest. Like, pushing yourself beyond that is that's not healthy for you, okay? So you need to listen to your body, listen to those cues, and do what you need to do to keep yourself healthy. Okay? Okay. So here's another flag that you know that you could be relapsing: handling stress poorly, elevated stress experiencing mental illness symptoms, not participating in a recovery program, bad mouthing recovery activities, showing contempt for recovering, denying a need for recovery, or feeling overconfident in recovery. Now I've been there where I thought, I've got this. Oh, honey, let me tell you about a story time. So this was in 2009. No, 2010, when I got out of prison. I paroled out to a sober living house, and I got there and I started working the steps. I was going to meetings, had a sponsor, and I was sober for 9 months. Well, right around the 6 month mark, I got a promotion at my job. And then around 9 months, I got a opportunity to go to Memphis with my boss, right? Yeah. And do some work with them. And so while I was there, I relapsed on Klonopin. Now, one of the reasons why I relapsed was because I was working too many hours. I wasn't taking care of my body, and I wasn't listening to my hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, right? I was just running on fumes, baby. And I kept telling myself, oh, I got this. It's not that big of a deal. I was making mad money because I was on the trip with my boss, and we were remodeling these stores. So I was getting mad money. I was getting paid. And that on top of, that trigger of making a lot of money, on top of being in another part of the world, another part of the state, not having my support system, not going to meetings because I was working so many hours. Bada bing, bada boom, I relapsed. Reactivation of denial, avoidance, irresponsible behavior such as skipping school or work. These are things that can lead you to relapse. Changes in routine, lying, deceiving, or becoming defensive, re-engaging with or even thinking about dubious people, places, and things related to past substance use, and glamorizing, thinking positively about or talking about substance use. Some people can just sense when something isn't right with the recovering addict. I find that family members, friends, and other people who are close to the recovering addict are really good at that. They just know that something is off and they have concerns. If you're feeling that way about the recovering addict in your life, you're probably right. My experience has been that family and friends are usually spot on. If you sense that something isn't right and you fear that relapse may be developing, there are a couple things you can do as your action plan. So depending on your level of involvement with your loved one, you can either intervene or notify the right person who can intervene. So let's say like your son or daughter is at home and you're noticing some negative behaviors that they only do when they're getting high, right? And when you talk to them about things, they get super defensive and angry, right? So you don't want to go and say anything to them because it's just going to send them over the edge and they'll run off and go fuck off, right? Call their sponsor, call their recovery friends that you see them talking to, and say, listen, I need your help. I think my daughter has relapsed. I know if I talk to her about it, it's going to send her over the edge. Can you please help? So
There you go.
thanks, I appreciate it. Okay. And I saw your comment, Sterling. You said that you've been having too much confidence in yourself. You've been cocky about your recovery. That happens, that happens sometimes. If you're doing that, if you find yourself being too, sure of yourself, do something. Do a humility act. Do a humbling exercise. Okay. For example, go do H&I and go share your story at the local jail or prison. Go volunteer at the local detox center and go see those kids in there that are sick as fuck coming off dope. Okay. Get out of your own way and do something to help somebody else. Okay? And get back into the routine of waking up in the morning, thanking your higher power, doing your meditation, planning your day, like get back in your routine. Okay. Okay. The fact that you're talking about it means that you know that you are headed down a wrong path. Acknowledge that. Secrets keep you sick, so talk about what you're feeling. Um, it's okay to be happy and confident about being sober, but when you think like, oh, I'm untouchable, nothing can touch me, and you start putting yourself in compromising situations like going around people who are getting high still, dibble dabbling with things that you normally wouldn't, that you know you shouldn't. For example, I know that I cannot take Benadryl or Tylenol PM because I will take it addictively. I will take a whole bunch of them to get fucked up and knock myself out. For me, that would be something that would lead me back if I was starting to dibble dabble taking some sleeping pills to go to sleep at night. That's a thing that I would go and get high over, right? And that's a negative behavior that I practiced during my addiction when I didn't have drugs. Okay. Beside the two, snitching on your addiction. Besides the two mainstays of relapse prevention, picking up the phone or going to a meeting, counselors teach us that the big three relapse prevention tools for when they recognize that they're in the relapse process. Okay, these tools all three are borrowed from the 12-step program, are designed to interrupt the dysfunctional thinking that drives the progression from vulnerability to relapse to the actual relapse. When the addict's brain starts making its owner believe that drinking or using is a good idea, these tools are effective for taking back control. Here they are. Number one, this is my main one. Remember when the addicted mind starts trying to convince the addict that drinking or using was fun and a great escape from reality? Addicts are encouraged to pause and think back to all the misery, sickness, pain, loss, and regret that their substance use caused them, how badly they wanted to stop, and how difficult it was to stop. Remembering specific situations that were especially painful during their active substance use is helpful. Most addicts have a few specific situations from their past that they use for their remember when. Y'all want to know mine? I've told y'all this a million times. This is one of my main relapse prevention tools. Remember when? The day I had to hand my infant child over to a complete stranger at Child Protective Services. My baby boy was asleep in his car seat, and I had to give him to somebody and walk away so that when he woke up from his nap, he was in a stranger's home with strange people who he did not know. And so I think about that anytime I think about using. Number two, follow the tape all the way through to the end. When the addicted mind becomes obsessed with relapse, it just focuses on the party. Playing the tape through to the end is a mental cue that addicts are taught that reminds them to follow through in their mind and think about what happens after the party, the next day. They think about the guilt and shame, the disappointment in themselves, the sickness and renewed obsession with substance use that will inevitably follow the party. I always remind addicts that nobody ever comes back from even a brief relapse saying, "That was awesome." And number three, actively avoiding risky situations. It's true of any temptation that it's much easier to say no at the beginning than it is at the end. Addicts are taught to cut off high-risk situations as soon as they recognize them developing, rather than waiting and allowing situations to progress to where getting themselves out will be difficult. Many of the relapse situations that I've seen occurred after addicts allowed themselves to get into a situation that they knew damn well was high risk, and they knew perfectly well that they shouldn't be there, but they did it anyway. Recognizing and actively avoiding these situations is a must-do relapse prevention technique. Okay. Okay. One more thing and I'm going to go. One of the most important aspects to recovery is learning how to cope with stress. Okay? Super important. Learning how to cope, different coping skills. How do you cope with stress, okay? Here's some ways. Accepting that life may not always go well or as planned. Ups and downs and surprises are simply a normal part of life. Life happens. Learning to stop ruminating and obsessing over the past or blowing problems out of proportion by projecting them into the future. Correcting low self-esteem by bringing together the idea and the actual self. Self-forgiveness, thereby ending the constant self-loathing that haunts the addicted mind, and ending the guilt, regret, remorse, and self-criticism that create constant low-grade stress. Establishing self-efficacy for recovery and life in general through vicarious experiences. Establishing a recovery support system through meetings, connecting with others in recovery, getting a recovery sponsor, and maintaining a social support system of family and friends. Self-care, including diet, physical activity, proper sleep, and proper medical and psychiatric care. Developing a self-identity as a person in recovery. Altruism, anger management, and become a helpful and productive member of the family unit and society. So, I used to get like really upset when I first got sober, like angry. I had to learn to because my anger was misplaced. My anger was at me, but I would misplace it, like getting mad at my husband or something, you know? Hey, chat. Hey, J-Mac, what's up, baby? So, I hope this little live stream was helpful, you guys. Like I said, the book that I'm reading is Understanding and Helping an Addict and Keeping Your Sanity. Okay? And yeah, I really love this book. So there's so much more stuff I could teach you that we could learn and read about, that we can learn together and read about together. But just know that today, right now, by sitting here and listening to this live and participating in the live, that you are healing your brain and that new neuro pathways are developing and firing. And if you're listening to this video on your ear headsets and it's, you know, a playback or replay, you are doing the same thing, taking the initiative to do something for your recovery, like listen to a podcast or a video about recovery and trying to learn new things about your addiction. That's a way that you are going to be able to heal your brain and get better. So I love you guys. I will be going live at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for members only. If you're not a member and you want to become one, the way that you do it is by going to my YouTube channel and clicking the join button by the subscribe button. I'll show it to you guys right here. Or do I have it? Oh, I don't have it. Anyways, there will be it'll say join, or there's a link to it there'll be a link to it in this comment section. It's like $4 and it's just a way to support me if you want to. But what we're going to do, hopefully all of the people who are members will show up to the live stream tomorrow night. And I want you guys to be able to come up and talk. So it'll just be us members on the live. Okay. All right. Bye guys. See you later.